Warning: the following podcast, which contains strong language and mature content, is unsuitable for children or for the faint of heart. The subject matter discussed will be frightening and graphic in nature. Listener discretion is advised.
Three spooked girls. Three spooked girls. When you wanna hear about the paranormal, you get the spooked girls. True crime that makes you hypothermal. With the three spooked girls, stabby snippets will give you dreams. Tara and Jessica will make you eyes gray, along with the spooked girls. Bring on the slaughter, we on that haunted ground. Spooked girls. The three spooked girls.
Hey Spooksters, and welcome back to another episode here on Three Spooked Girls. My name is Tara, and as always, I'm here with my ghoul friend Jessica.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are starting a new documentary recap. For the next few weeks, we are going to be discussing, trust me, The False Prophet. I will disclaim, if you have not watched the Keep Sweet and Obey, I believe is what it's called, that kind of gives you more in-depth background on the people in this documentary. I personally was not super familiar, so I watched that first, but it's not completely necessary if you know. It's about Warren Jeffs and his whole group of the fundamentalists of the, I guess just FLDS is what they're called. Mm-hmm. Basically, their whole group and everything, and no spoilers because this is, a bit old now. He's been in prison like 20 some odd years at this point. Is he even still alive? He's still alive, right?
I need to Google it because what we watched indicates that he is but I was like, I feel like that would have been announced quite loud.
Certain false prophets say he's dead, but he was fucking lying. But at that time in filming. Anyway, so we're going to get into some more extreme fundamentalist Mormons for the next bit, guys. Strap in. This is a crazy documentary. That's all I can really say before we get too deep into this. But as you guys know, we got our little business to get to prior to our recap. So if you are new here, hello, welcome. Thank you for checking out the show. Returning Spooksters, welcome back.
He is still alive.
Oh, okay. Good to know. There you go. He's still alive.
He's 70.
He's still fucking kicking. If you are not hanging out with us on social media, you can find us on all the places. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, everywhere. Our handle is at Three Spooked Girls. And we have our amazing Facebook group where we have discussion threads. We ask you guys when we do polls on topics or episodes or threads for episode requests, that's where all those live. So if you want to hang out with Spooksters and hang out with Jess and I, because we're very active in the group, go on over there. And if you are a reader, you can join us on our virtual book club. We are Spookster Literary Society in the Book Clubs app. When you guys are hearing this, it is the end of the month, so we will be announcing our May pick tomorrow. If you're listening to this on publish day, we did a poll. There was a tie. So Jess, Ashley, and I chose the winner. We were the tiebreakers. So keep an eye out for that. And if you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Three Spooked Girls. For as little as $1, you get one bonus episode a month. 5 and up get ad-free episodes the day before. And if you are, again, listening to this on publish day, there is an extra bonus episode up today for our patrons. So definitely check that out. Oh, and I will say real quick before we get into this, Social Seance Society is coming back next week, so be sure to check it out. I'm going to say it. Can I say it now? Are we close enough?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it is time to announce what our next season is. We are, I'm so fucking excited. We are going to be doing recaps/discussions of Disney-inspired horror movies. It's going to be so fun. Only one you have to rent if you want to watch it, but the rest of them are all free. They're, of course, our love. They're mainly on Tubi. I think a couple might be on Peacock, but oh my God, you guys, so excited, so ready. So if you like our recaps that we do on movies here, it's going to be that, but those and so much fun. So be sure to tune in and get ready. Oh my God, especially this first one.
Just so that everyone knows, the first one, and I think we've decided that we're going to do every one like this. This is the first time Tara and I really watched them together. Like, we watched the first one together and I was dying.
Yeah.
Because I'm so excited for you guys to get our commentary on this movie.
Yes. Yeah, they're going to be a little bit of a different vibe than our normal recaps, but we think you guys are going to enjoy it. We had so much fun watching it, and we made the whole season. We kind of like tried to go through the journey of like Disney over the years, right? So like, no spoilers. Our first one will have a theme of Steamboat Willie and so on and so forth. So if you're into horror, if you're into B-horror, if you're into Disney, I mean, it's not really Disney, but definitely check it out. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I am so excited. But I will quit gushing on that for now because we have so much to get into with this documentary. Oh my God. Okay. So episode 1 is called And That's How We Met Sam Bateman. The intro is a little chaotic. I am going to say that. It jumps around a lot. So we meet a lot of key players. We're going to get a lot of B-roll because basically, if you know nothing about this, the people that put this together, their names are Christine and Tolga. They are a married couple. They are not originally from this area they moved to. We'll get into that in a moment. And basically, the easiest way to explain it is this goes back to starting in 2016. They moved to Short Creek, which is essentially the mecca for the FLDS. It's kind of like a little safe haven for them. And this is on the border of Arizona and Utah. That'll definitely come into play and is an important little piece of information. We get some kind of quick flashbacks of Warren Jeffs to let us know, especially if you haven't watched the other one. He is in prison for 2 felony counts of SA on girls. And Christine tells us that it is the most isolated town, but she felt drawn to go out there to help. That when they got there, obviously, they were not open to help because, you know, as we have learned over the years from discussing cults and other organizations, they are not prone to being open to outsiders, especially when they have went under public scrutiny like this group has, and rightfully so. But I loved it because she was like, they didn't want help, but guess what? They fucking did.
I know.
I was like, yes, Christine, I love her. And there's just like a lot of back and forth with people. I'll name drop them as we go along. And there was a quote that stuck out to me that one of the women said. And they said, predators don't come in with horns and a cape. They come in dressed in their suit and tie. And that is like so fucking true. And it's just, it just makes me think of so many things where I'm just like, back in the day, we used to have this certain mental image of what these serial killers or cult leaders and these people looked like. But like, as we have learned, that's not always the damn case, right? And then I clocked it. I had to timestamp it. I had to pause it. Less than 2 minutes in, we see what I'm going to just call this whole time the fuck-ass white leather jacket. I fucking can't. The false prophet, aka Sam, has this awful white leather jacket that he wears throughout it, and I can't. I fucking can't. And I have a little side tidbit to talk about that later. And then we get a quick, what looks to be a child bride and him at a wedding ceremony, supposedly over 18, but we will definitely get into that. And after we see that, we cue our intro, which is actually a pretty like epic intro. I really liked it, like the music and everything. They did a great job. So, like I mentioned, Christine and Tolga are our couple that has made this. So we open with Christine driving the U-Haul from Vegas to this area, which locals refer to as the Crick. And Tolga tells us that they're moving out there, and he's talking about how he is a music producer. He does a lot of that. He does a lot of photography. And when they are getting there, the house they are moving into is located in Colorado City, Utah, which is, again, all right there. So Christine tells us that when they got there, they felt like it was the wild, wild west, and they were literally one of 2 outsider families in the whole community, which, again, does not surprise me at all. She also tells us that Tolga is a music video producer and a photographer and that he suggested they document everything. So we get some footage that's like them shopping at the little market and things like that. And it's, I don't know, it's just like kind of cutesy and like looks very home video-y to start. And then we meet Esther Bisling, and she says that, of course, they were all weary of Christine because outsiders didn't come there and they didn't know what their motivations were. And that because they were filming, they assumed they were only there to either write a book or to just make a documentary to, quote, expose them. Nothing positive type of thing. And another woman that we meet, her name is Norma Richter. She's another FLDS member. She says they were an eccentric couple, and she describes them as, quote, a guy from Turkey with a ponytail, and Christine was a little blonde thing like a Hollywood girl. And Christine's like so cute. She is so cute. They show like a bunch of pictures of her and we get some like B-roll of her and they talk about she wears a lot of like vintage clothes and Norma's like, that was just so darling to me. Like, so she appealed to them very easily, which all the stuff she does in Tolga too, like thank goodness, right? So Christine explains that she felt a sense of calling with wanting to move there because she herself was Mormon. She wasn't FLDS. She was a mainstream Mormon, but she was super devoted and super into it. And she explains that Mormons believe in prophets and that a man she had met convinced her he was a modern day prophet. And she knew she would do anything to be obedient. And she said as time went on, she started to get confused and lost her critical thinking, that she became really broken and spent the next decade reading everything she could about cults. And fun fact, she actually got a doctorate in cult psychology, which I was like, damn, that's pretty badass. And I love that for her. She said that she believed everyone from FLDS needed to be rescued, but she felt connected to them and she thought she could be helpful in the crick. So basically, when they got there, this is the aftermath. This is after Warren Jeffs was arrested. So this reporter that's also in here, his name is Mike Watkiss. I think he's the reporter that's in the first one. I can't completely remember, but he's kind of talking about how with him being incarcerated, it didn't diminish his powers to his followers. And if you did watch Keep Sweet, you do see at the end that his followers were going, the women, his wives were going, they were writing down everything he was saying, and he was essentially giving sermons from prison. And they still thought he was their leader and still following his guidance. And wouldn't you know, one of his big things he told them was that since he couldn't have sex or anything, none of his people could, 1, get married anymore, or 2, have any marital affairs of any kind. So no more babies. Which is a huge thing because in this religion, cult, whatever you want to call it, they talk about later how it was expected of them that they needed to be having a child every year, essentially. That's why these people have such large families. And then we meet an ex-member named Carol, and she is explaining this to us and things like that. And then we see like, oh my God, this was so creepy to me. They show us this footage. They take them into this like, I don't know if it was like an attic or like a barn or what it was, but there was literally hundreds of just cribs because since no one was having babies, they didn't need to have them out. And they're just like all stockpiled in there. It was so many.
I know. It was literally like, just think of like going into a warehouse that someone just threw a ton of cribs in. Mm-hmm. Some were like still like look like cribs. Some of them were torn down. So they were just like in slats.
Yeah.
It gave like horror movie vibes.
Oh, totally. My thought was like, if this had been B-roll with no talking and different music, oh, it totally could have given a scary, creepy vibe. Ew. Mm-hmm. Hate it, hate it, hate it. Now, around 2015, Homeboy was starting to become more and more mentally unstable and stopped talking to anybody outside of prison. Also around this time in 2016, the government decided to take control of the community, and in turn, they began to evict the members that were still there from their homes. So Christine says that when they got there, it was in the middle of everyone packing up and leaving town, and basically, they could have stayed in their homes, but they would have had to sign this form, but it was against their religion, so everybody refused to, basically. And the state was like, well, then tough shit, get the fuck out. honestly, it was really sad because it's just mainly it's like all these women and children that are there having to deal with this. Like, yeah, there was some men, but it was mainly women and children. And it just sucks because it's like there was one lady that was talking about how her home was like her great grandpa's or something's, you know, homestead. So it's like they're not only losing their homes, it's literally homes that had been in their families for generations. So much family history that they're losing because, you know, they're trying to adhere to their faith. And it's hard. It is sad. It is sad. And I feel like Christine and them talk about it too. But it's like, it really does feel like people up until I feel like more recently didn't think about things like that with these people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they didn't think of that empathy. It was more just like, well, they chose to be in this cult, so this is what they get, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, as we go on to learn, not everyone who's a part of this is evil. I mainly will say, like, no offense to any dudes listening, but I'm going to say the women. You know what I mean? A lot of them are, let's just face it, they're victims.
Oh, wow. I Googled it because I was like, I wanted to know what it was. And it says that the document was the cross between some sort of like to sign an occupancy agreement or like a homeowners association.
So a lease.
Yeah. But some of these were like their freaking homes.
Right. Like they owned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy. And Christine and Tolga had the same empathetic reaction. That was originally why they moved out there to begin with, was to try to help these people. But then seeing it firsthand, they said, wait a minute, we need to show people the truth. We need to help with how stigmatized they are. We want them to see that there is positive sides to this community. Not every single member is an evil human being.
Right.
And Norma comes on and she says, you know, at first they were really cautious because they didn't know if they could trust them. And that's very valid because there's so many people that sensationalize and take advantage. And it's like, you know, they're very isolated in their own world that I would assume it would probably not be too hard for someone bad to come in and cause influence. I mean, that's kind of how they got here to begin with, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we get like a little bit of backstory on who Christine is as a person. And I'm like, oh my God, you were so fascinating. So we find out she was a ventriloquist and had a show called Gingerbread House. And on top of that, Miss was super busy. She was also a certified life coach, an escape artist, and a former Miss Michigan. I was like, okay, Christine, I love that for you.
Christine has lived so many lives.
And she got her doctorate. I'm like, damn, girl. Like, it's so cool. I love her. And on top of that, there's even more too. So Tolga talks about how when he met her, she had the show. And on top of the show, she was also a kindergarten teacher. I'm just like, my God, she is so busy all the time.
She doesn't sit still well, you can tell.
Yeah, for sure. And he said that, you know, she would literally do crazy stuff to help anybody. She was always willing to go above and beyond to help anyone that she thought was in need. So she's a very, very caring person. While filming, Christine and Tolga created a nonprofit called Voices for Dignity and a place called Short Creek Cottage. And what was so great about both of these things was the Voices for Dignity was a nonprofit that helped these displaced families. And that was getting them stuff, getting diapers, getting food, getting whatever they could to help them out. Because keep in mind, you know, these women didn't work. They were like homemakers, basically. And in that same vein, the Short Creek Cottage turned into this place where they sold homemade goods and food and things like that. And these women ran it. Norma and Esther both worked there. I think Esther was the one that was running it, or she may still, I don't know if she still does, but at that time she was running it. Mm-hmm. And Christine had said whether people leave the church or not, she wanted them to be okay. And she said that her plan from the get-go was to never say anything negative to them about their profit. That's smart because if you're just coming in and attacking them, they're not going to trust you. They're going to be on the defense.
Exactly.
It's smart strategy-wise, and also just, Christine just has a huge heart. Like, she just genuinely has a huge heart. And so eventually everyone just got used to her and Tolga being around. And then we meet a man that's going to come up a lot. He's the false prophet, hence the title. And that man is Sam Bateman. Now, Sam was not what you would think a leader would be. He was not a man of status. He was one of the ones who got evicted and asked for help. And Christine was like, yeah, we helped him out. They showed his like form and all that stuff on there. And he told her, I'm in financially dire straits, and that him and his wife had recently gotten a divorce. And she says that basically people thought he was a schlub. Pretty much, like, he had no status. He couldn't keep like a job. He didn't make much money when he did have a job. He was just one of those dudes that was like, okay, you're here, but like nobody really cares kind of thing.
Right.
So she said that at this point, you know, he was looking for a lifeline. And after a while, he kind of just like disappeared. But then a couple years later in 2019, he shows up with a super young wife who they do mention is over the age of 18. She couldn't have been much older than that.
Yeah, that seemed like days over 18.
Right. I assumed she was like 18 or 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all like, what the fuck? Because at that point, you know, from their prophet, they had been told they could not get married. So they're like, what the hell are you doing having a wife? So even the FLDS members are side-eyeing him at this point. They're like, okay.
For sure. And that's how you know, like, this guy is bad news, is because these people who were indoctrinated into this culture are like, who the fuck is this dude?
Mm-hmm. It was so funny because Esther's like, she's like, I was like, that's interesting.
I know. I love Esther. She gives like that aunt vibe that, like, you know, who's just going to tell you how things are. And Norma gives like grandma vibes.
For sure. And then he showed up with another wife who was over 18. So this is why I'm thinking like, oh, I bet this one was 18 and the other one was like 19.
Mm-hmm.
Because wife number 2 is the younger sister of wife number 1.
Right.
And then even weirder, this, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, so fucking weird. And obviously everybody was like, what the fuck also. Sam shows up with a flatbed trailer and a crap ton of wives. There was like 20 plus women. Then there was babies. They're like singing, like they're drive-by caroling, like they're in a parade, like, but they're parked. But like, it's, I don't know how else to describe it. It was so freaking weird.
It really was.
Also, just so y'all are aware, there are, I'm just going to come out and say it, there are some child brides in this, but for their protection, since they were minors during filming and any children, their faces have been digitally altered. They were blurred at first, but then I guess, I don't know, they just like changed them, like AI'd them or something, which I didn't catch the first time. And I was like, what do you mean you altered them? I could see their face. And then I was like, oh, that's not their face. Okay.
If you miss this part at some point, like I heard that part.
Yeah.
And then like maybe like 10 minutes later, I'm still watching.
Yeah.
And one of the children is like sitting there talking. But, you know, like I think they altered them in a way that they wanted you to realize they were altered.
Yes.
Right. So they're still like rough around the edges.
It's like kind of glowy. Mm-hmm.
They didn't blend it in. And I was like, what the frick is wrong with that child's face? And then I was like, oh, wait, is it AI face?
Yeah. Which, you know, I think is a smart move just for their protection of their identity. But everybody there, they say everyone was not interested in Esther's. Like, we avoided them. We avoided them as much as possible. We avoided Sam. We avoided the wives. We avoided the children. We wanted no part in that because that was not what we were about. And then we meet an ex-member. His name is Lamont. And he says pretty much everyone thought Sam was a joke at first. They're all like, okay, buddy, like you got all these wives. Like, cool. You're still a schlub.
I like him.
I do too, because he's like, I got the tea and I don't care.
But my favorite part about it is like, as someone who's survived growing up in a religious cult, there's this thing that happens with people who like leave. There's this like aggression in the way that you curse. So at some point, like eventually it like peters out to like be a normal inflection. But when he was like, well, shit. And I was like, I get it right there, sir. You still in the outskirts of like you're like leaving to the point where you're like, okay, that harshness will go away, sir.
Right. So Christine's explaining this as well, saying that all of the FLDS members were shunning him. She was like, I knew he was a red flag too, but me and Tolga did not treat him that way because we wanted to figure out what was going on. Because seeing how young some of the wives were, and then there's rumors coming around, she was like, I need to get to the bottom of this because if children are being abused, we need to help them.
Right.
So basically, one night, they were invited to Sam's house for dinner. They made it this big ordeal. It was like Sunday's best. They had brought out like all the stops. They made like all this food. They're all dressed really nice. And then this group just really likes singing, because then they do what they described. And I was like, this is accurate. They're like, they basically gave us a talent show. It was weird. And I'm like, bro, kudos to Christine and Tolga for staying neutral during this, because I probably would have been like, where the fuck am I? Like, what the actual shit?
I will say I really wanted the dessert they were serving. It looked delicious. And I was like,
yeah.
I was like, I really want that now.
That's how they'd get you.
Right? Like, if I'm abducted into a cult, it's because they offered like free dessert.
Right. And I'm assuming because of her background, Christine says that alarm bells immediately are going off. Like I mentioned, there was already rumors that he was marrying the children, and there was children there as young as 9 years old. So after the dinner and talent show, Christine wanted to talk to the cops. And we do meet a member from the police department. It is, like I said, they're on the border. So it is the Colorado City / Hilldale PD. We meet Sergeant David Wilkinson. He kind of goes into explaining that this is the sanctuary for these members and those who practice plural marriage and things like that. But overall, it's a quiet and nice community. And prior to Christine coming, he said that there were people making concerned reports about Sam, but they had no proof, so the cops' hands were tied. There was really nothing they could do at that point. And Christine says that the cops had told her he could call all those kids his wives, but unless he did something with those children, there's no crime. Which I'm like, that's such a gross sentence to come out of your mouth.
It's such a gross sentence.
I get it. You got to have probable cause. You got to have evidence. You got to have something. You can't just arrest someone from someone saying something. I get that. But it's still like, ugh.
It's so gross, right? And I think even he's acknowledging that it's like his hands are tied. But also it's like you don't want to go in aggressively without proof, because then these people will go underground.
Yep.
And then you'll never get them. Whereas like the way that Christine and Tolga and I think the cops are, they're just like, they're waiting for some sort of evidence to come out so that they could be like, here, and they can nail them, because they're going to get one shot at them.
Exactly. Well, no surprise, since Sam's wanting to be Mr. Cult Leader 2.0. He loves the cameras. And they run into him when they're hiking one day. And he just like fucking pops out of the bushes. And Tolga's like, whoa, how'd you do that? Just like dying. Like, what the fuck? And oh my God. Oh, there's more later. I'm not going to ruin it. But he just like pops out. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And they were like, well, if he wants to film, then we're going to film. And then we can really find out what's going on, you know? Because obviously she wants to make sure those kids are safe. So Sam gets cozy with them real fucking quick and invites them to his birthday. And he's 46 years old at this point. They're like really good. I'm like, bro, y'all should be like undercover cops all the time, because they bring him an orchid, and then they're like being all lighthearted and being like, oh my gosh, we were going to bring you a crown, but we couldn't find one because, you know, you're the king. And he's just like eating this shit up. Like, he's so fucking stupid, which I'm like, good. And he calls his little family situation the Samuelite group. And they all live in this like giant house. And there's less than 50 members because, again, the majority of the FLDS people were being like, no, fuck you, you weirdo. We don't want nothing to do with you. But there are 3 other families that are involved with this. So we have a pair of brothers. We have Torrance Bisleen and Liddell Bisleen, who's Esther's nephews. And then I always say this guy's name wrong. Is it Maroney?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Maroney Johnson. And I just keep wanting to be like macaroni. I don't fucking know. He's a piece of shit, so I don't really care.
I only know how to pronounce this because one of my friends in high school who was Mormon, that was his middle name.
Oh, okay.
Because in high school, you know, because we're high schoolers.
Yeah.
When we first saw his name, we were like, first name, and then everyone went Moroni, or like, you know, like Moroni. Like, it was that kind of moment.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, for sure. I've listened to it a few times because I'm like, I gotta say this right, because I've never seen this name before, like myself. So these guys were very much involved with the community. They had a lot of status. They were very successful in business and things like that. We'll get into more of that a little later. But at this point, it was about 7 years since people had heard from Warren Jeffs. And Sam came up with the idea. We mentioned our confusion on if he was actually dead or not. It was because Sam was swearing up and down that he was dead and that the government was lying. And throughout this, we see some of Sam's diary. I love how they call it a diary and not a journal.
Just don't think that the government cares enough to say that Warren Jeffs is still alive when he is dead.
Right? What's the point?
Right. Like, it would actually behoove them to be like, why are y'all still acting like this dude is dead? You know?
Exactly. So the first entry we see, Sam had written, Warren S. Jeffs is not in that prison cell, and that now he is Warren Jeffs' messenger, and that he was being given the directive from Warren from the other side, which, wouldn't you know it, and if you watch the first documentary, you'll already know this, Warren said the same thing when he took over when his dad died, because his dad was the original leader. And it was kind of the same. Warren was this guy that they didn't really think much of him, give him much stock. But this is why these people in this small group believed Sam.
Right. I do like that he was like, oh, I'm just going to use the same playbook as Warren did. But other people who had followed Warren religiously were like, bullshit, Sam. Bullshit. I'm like, Sam is so unliked that they were like, there's no way God is using this asshole.
No. He wrote in his diary again, Uncle Warren made me a prophet to do his will. And the thing was, this was something Sam thought about for those he could manipulate, was that these people had lost their faith, lost their sense of identity. So they're going to grab at the first sign of that. And basically, that's what he thought. Let me just completely copy. And the ones desperate enough will just be like, oh, this is familiar. This has to be the right way. And it unfortunately did work. So the very first person to believe in Sam was Moroni. He believed him when he said he was speaking from the spirit of Uncle Warren, is what he says. And he said that it woke him up. And when it woke him up, he turned over his daughters to marry Sam. He gave all of his children. And there's a recording of him saying, I surrender the ladies under my care. They belong to Father Samuel. What he chooses to do with them is his business. He also had multiple wives that went to Sam too. He just was like, here, take everybody, almost.
It's so weird because in this kind of belief system, I'm just going to call it out. People who don't believe this don't just give their children. A dad doesn't just give his daughter to a man.
Right.
The opposite would happen. There would be fighting. They'd be trying to save the child. They would be reporting to the police. But because this is such a brainwashed society, and I'm going to call it that, these men have no problem just, one, viewing women as property and just being like, well, I own them, so I can give them to this man. But why? Tara's just starting to watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but Sam reminds me of a Boyle cousin. He doesn't really have this, I don't know. Tara and I were talking about, you never just see, a normal guy running a cult. You're always questioning, why the fuck is anyone following this dude? But there's, an extra layer of, what the fuck, Samwise Gamgee? What's happening here? Why him? I honestly, think it goes back to the whole, Warren Jeffs being no more sex. And Sam is I believe in having sex. And that's why people are following him.
Yeah, 100%. And after this, he took Liddell's daughters and his wife, and then they say other women in his care. So I'm like, oh, his other wives. So basically, he took everybody from Liddell, pretty much. And Liddell says, you can hear him saying, Samuel, she's yours, and then says, God bless you. So Christine asks Liddell, so your whole family is now going to be sealed to Samuel? And he says, however that looks in earthly mind, you don't have a clue. And then looks at the camera and says, those girls love him. And then turns back to Christine and says, I'll testify that to the whole world. I've seen it. This man truly believes he's doing the right thing by giving over his children to this man. And that's just so gross to me. And basically, Christine explains to us, like, everybody in FLDS, they want to be associated with the prophet because if you're associated with the prophet, then you're associated with God. So it's like a whole status thing. And Carol talks about how several of her nieces, she's now an ex-member, married Sam, and it gave him the opportunity to have children. And even at that time, when she was still a member, she said, yeah, I was even hoping at that point I would be chosen to be one of his wives. Like, that's just how deep all these people started getting into this with him. And Esther is obviously, she stays in the no, Sam's full of fucking shit. And she was like, I was just really disappointed in them because he obviously is not a prophet. And she was, those were her nephews. And she's just like, ugh. So now he's the prophet. So he's using his power to get what he wanted. And Torrance had a very successful green energy company. And of course, Maroney and Liddell worked for them. And they were bankrolling Sam's whole fucking life. Because remember, Sam had no money, Sam had nothing, and he had all these people to take care of. So he's got his big ass house. He's got all of these cars. They had 2 Range Rovers and 2 Bentleys. And basically they would drive around town like they're a barricade or some shit. And just basically so he could show off and be like, look it, y'all were doubting me or y'all thought I was nothing. Now look it, I'm king of the castle kind of shit is pretty much what he was doing. And eventually, not only does Sam want to be in this documentary, he thinks he should be the star. He thinks he should be the main focal point to show the world how amazing he is. And he starts talking about a teaching, and Christine was trying to be respectful because she was like, oh, should we not be filming this when we're talking about this? Like, we want to respect things that you might want to keep private. And he's like, no, this is totally fine. Like, blah, blah, blah. And this was just like another point of him essentially like regurgitating what he thought he should be as a leader, in my opinion, just because of like how he talked, because it was like he was saying the right things, quote, quote, but he didn't have that, or at least to me, didn't have that actual confidence that we see in a lot of cult leaders. Like it seemed very rehearsed.
Oh, yeah. I think one of the things is like, we don't really get this kind of insider.
No.
Yeah. And you and I had a conversation earlier in the week about how like, if this kind of thing had happened at Waco, we would have seen a shit ton of David Koresh just like sitting down and really just being like preaching at the camera. And Sam does give the vibe of like he really wants to be charismatic, but he doesn't truly believe the words he's saying, or he doesn't have the confidence to convey the truth behind his words in his opinion. And it's an interesting thing because Sam's cult is like within a cult, and it's so tiny. And really, it doesn't matter what he says or how he says it. It's his ability to give these men what they want is why they're following him. And I think Sam kind of reminds me of like one of those influencers who doesn't really know what they're doing. And he's like trying to find his footing. And it's like, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to become like this influential cult leader through this documentary. And it's so weird. And I'm like, cults are typically really secretive. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to be filmed because you're putting your shit out there for the world to see and scrutinize and also become evidence.
Right. What's crazy is he has that opposite reaction completely. Christine and Tolga tell us that they turned into working for him. Basically, they turned into his crew. Literally, anytime he would call and be like, hey, let's film today. Hey, you guys should be here for this. They would drop everything and do it. And at that point, this did turn into their jobs because at this point, Tolga was still traveling back to like Southern California, like to LA and stuff for work, but it became too much that he literally had to stay. He could not go. So Tolga tells us that his day with Sam would start at about 8 a.m. And there was one day he called and is told, hey, Sam wants you to come film him on the motorcycle, which is just a dirt bike. And this bitch can't even make a simple jump. It is the most like, hey, look at this cool thing I can do. And he's just like a fucking idiot and not doing anything cool. And poor Tolga's like, I just had to sit there and just act like it was the most fascinating thing. And then there's like this footage of Sam hiking. And bro, it is the same energy as the parkour episode of The Office. It is literally that to me.
this dude is like a billy goat, like a mountain goat. Like he just runs up rocks and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? But also it's not cool in the context he's doing it.
No.
He's not doing it in these like big, like, you know, like these like Iron Man races or shit like that. He's in like khaki like work pants.
He's in like business casual.
Right. And he's just like running around. And you're like, yeah, it gives the parkour episode. It also gives like Nerds with a Camera, like that.
Yes.
Like, watch me do this cool stunt. And they like, you know, like go to like ollie on a skateboard and they get like a half an inch off. Like, I know I can't ollie, but you're never going to catch me being like, watch me ollie. And it'd be like real dumb. Like everyone around me, you can just tell that all these women have gassed him up all of these years and have been like, oh my God, you're so good. Look at you go. Look at Sam go. And then like now there's people around who like, they're like, oh.
Literally, Tolga says, he's like, wow, where'd you learn to do that? And then Sam's like, what? That's just hiking. I was like, oh my God, ew.
Right. Like he's just like, this is just what I do.
He's like, huh, huh, huh.
Right. You have to watch it, guys, because it's so, you're just like, what the fuck is happening? They're in like a side by side. And all of a sudden, he just like, Sam just throws it into park, jumps out, and Tolga's like in there with like his camera. So it's not like he can just like fucking get out and like go real easy. He's like, this is it, and takes off into the bush and just goes down. So Tolga's like running around the side by side to get to the front to see it. And by the time he gets there, Sam is like down this ravine. And then he's like, oh, cool, dude. It's like very like, think you're at a family reunion and like your little cousin is like, watch me do a kickflip or like, watch me do this like roundhouse. And you're like, oh man, that was great.
Yeah, literally.
And you're like, that was great, buddy. Good job. That's literally the energy Tolga's bringing with this.
Honestly. And then, okay. And the other weird thing we have to talk about during this is he literally starts facilitating reenactments of like these lessons.
Oh my God.
So they're just like running through doing it. And he's like, oh yeah, let's get this over here. Let's do this. And then it's like the women, they're trying to be like, okay, is this okay? Like, cause he's like on this rock, like he's fucking Simba or something. And they're just like looking up at him and they're like, okay, is this good? And he's like, oh yeah. And then you hear him be like, oh, we need to run that again, or that's good, or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, oh my God, Tolga's patience. I can't.
Tolga, you need like an Academy Award for this shit, like, because what you put up with
For real.
is like ridiculous. Also, my favorite, like, there's so many favorite parts of this and like the ridiculousness. One is like, you're talking about the Simba rock where he's like looking out and like he appears out of nowhere and then these women just like walk out from under the rock.
Yeah.
And he was like basically calling down to them and they stop and they look up and one of the ladies has a baby. Mm-hmm. And you can just tell that the baby is fucking done.
Yeah.
The baby doesn't want to be out in the wilderness. It's done with life. And so he's like fussing and you could just tell that it was like making him out. And then there's the other part where Tolga's like standing in this one place and Sam is like walking and then is supposed to stop and turn back and be like, pray for me, and then walk on. And so he does it and it's terrible. Like this is like 5th grade class project acting. Like this is not good.
So bad.
And so he was like, was that good? And Tolga was like, it was great. Like, cause Tolga doesn't want to do this again.
He's like, move it on, bitch.
Right. And Sam's like, we should do it again. And then like walks back to the start point. Like this is some fucking film that he's like written a script for.
Uh-huh.
And Tolga is just like, okay.
Yeah, just like, God damn it.
Right. Poor Tolga.
Poor Tolga.
Patient man.
Truly. Because I don't even want to know how many days and months were like that. Good Lord.
And like you said, like he literally just, Sam would call him and be like, come over and film what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And Tolga would just get up and go film whatever the fuck he wanted him to film.
Yeah.
And it's all because literally he's just gaining his trust.
Exactly.
That's it. Every single minute in their mind is like one step closer to Sam, just completely trusting them.
Yep. And then one day, speaking of trust, he calls Christine and Tolga and says, hey, I had an impression. And for those of us who don't know what that means, Christine explains that an impression is when God's telling you something. And Sam said, I had an impression from the Lord that you and Tolga need to come over to my house this morning and we need to tell you some things. And she talks about how he has all these women and all these children there and that they get there. like they see everybody. He then tells them he's had an impression that he should leave the room while the girls talk to them. And Christine says she had been trying to figure out how to talk to them without giving any red flags. So she's just kind of generally asking how their lives have changed since Samuel came into their lives and for their testimony. As you would expect, they go on to say how much better their lives are now, how happy they are. Some of them are saying 50 times happier, 50 times better. There's always something to live for and always an increase. And that should be flag number 1 that they have been coached, because that word increase comes up here in a minute. That they all have a purpose and, stuff like this. Basically, they sound very media trained. Let's just put that out there. And some of them say, and you always have somebody who loves you. What more could a girl ask for than to belong to somewhere? And that they had confirmation from God to be there. Then we get Sam, after all of this takes place, when they realize, they ain't going to really get anywhere at this moment. Sam comes back with his fuck-ass jacket and he says, let's go for a ride in the Bentley. So it's him, Tolga, Christine, and then he says, hey, you, and you, come with us. So 3 girls come with them. And the plate on this Bentley says, ask father. I'm like, ew, gross.
It's like giving wannabe cult daddy vibes.
Ew, yeah, definitely. So they start driving and Christine was in the back with the girls and Tolga was in the front, and they weren't filming at this point. And Christine tells us Sam starts talking to them about how much he's suffered. And she said it seemed like he was trying to build up to something. And she realized, oh, this could turn into something we need to have fucking documented. So she sneakily reaches down, gets her phone out of her purse, pulls it up, and starts recording without Sam knowing. And that fucker starts spewing all sorts of things. I wrote out what he shared from that recording, and I'm just going to say, please, 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 huge trigger warning. This is very, very bad. This is going to involve minors, and it's what you're probably thinking it is. So Sam, on Monday, I had the most humbling damn impression I've ever had in my life. I'm sitting in the middle of a meeting at the office out there, and Heavenly Father told me have, names are redacted, I'm just going to say name redacted, be with Maroney. And so they're like, oh shit. So Tolga's like, okay. Because what the fuck else are they going to say? You know what I mean?
Right.
This is why they're fucking there. Sam says, screw her. And I was like, holy cow. And I got up and left and went up. I went up and got, name redacted. And I said, name redacted, Heavenly Father told me that you should be with Maroney. And I should be there watching. Christine goes on to tell us that he was explaining that he had to atone for the sins of wicked men by having these 3 wives have sex with them. And these are the 3 girls that are in the car. And these are girls. These are fucking children, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Sam says, and he told me to have Liddell be with, name redacted. And man, that just about killed me. I can't even express. And he told me to have Torrance be with, name redacted. This name redacted was 13 years old when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to cry. I fucking can't. And he goes on to say, can you comprehend what I had to experience to give the most precious thing in my entire life, my girl's virtue? There could not be anything worse than another man screwing my girls. Nothing.
Also, the language he's using in my mind is so contradictory to the way Warren Jeffs looked at everything as this was the way to continue the line of God and all this bullshit. But he used very reverent language, right? To be with them in a marital way or consummate. And Sam is all but saying fuck up, right? He's using the Mormon version of the fuck word. He's
right.
Screw to them is saying fuck. And I think this to me was one of the first times I was wow, I mean, obviously I had a lot of red flags, but this was the first time red flag really was solidified that this is not even remotely about some sort of religious belief. And then also the fact that this girl was in the car.
Yeah. Christine, she emphasizes too that he's focusing on how it was his pain and his suffering, nothing with the girls, nothing of theirs. So then Sam asks the 3rd girl, the young girl, the child, what about you? And she's audibly upset. You can hear her say it. She said, it scared me so dang bad. It hurt so bad. And Sam's response was, yeah, it hurts. I'm like, I want to punch you in the fucking face so fucking hard. Ooh, I was so fucking mad. The poor girl, she says, and it scared me so bad. Then Sam's response to that is, I want you to testify that there's no darkness in it. Was there any darkness? Did you feel any darkness? Did you feel guilt? And the girl says no. Sam says, not one speck of anything. Christine comes in and I'm like, oh, brave to like interject in this moment, like honestly. And she says trauma. And the girl says, no, nothing. And Sam says, I want you to make sure you testify to your people that it has not been a darkness or a decrease, has it? And the girl says, it hasn't. Sam says, you just tell him how you feel. I'm not going to tell you how to talk. Okay, Sam, because you literally fucking are, but sure, buddy. And she says it hasn't. But like, God, it just broke my heart. How much pain. Like, she's fucking maybe not at that moment, but like when it happened to her, she was fucking 13. She's a fucking kid.
Right. And you can hear it in her voice.
Oh, it's so fucking sad.
Because it's like her voice is like wavering.
Yeah. Like she's about to cry. You can hear it.
Yeah. It's very meek. She's answering things very quickly because she's like, I do that a lot if I'm like in a public setting and I'm visibly upset. I'll just answer things really quickly and then just like let it be because you don't want to get too far down the emotion. And that's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm, for sure. And then Sam says, has it been an increase? And she says, for me, it has. It has been an increase. And then Sam just goes, anyway, that's the story. Tolga's just like, wow. Because it's like, what the fuck? Like, they're shocked. What the fuck else are they going to say in that moment? And Christine says that, obviously, as anybody would, at this point, she was literally having like all of this panic just like exploding in her fucking body. And like you can hear her because they get back and they get out of the car and she's like, I gotta go feed the chickens. Or she makes up some excuse, right? Because she's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I gotta get away from this monster. Like, holy shit. But she's like, Tolga, if you want to stay, you can, but I'm gonna go peace. And she's like, gets the fuck out of there. But Tolga leaves too. And it's just like, oh, it just broke my heart because they're saying bye and they're saying like, love you, like to the girls and stuff. And then of course, fucking Sam's like, love you guys. I'm like, fuck you, Sam. Fuck you, you piece of shit. But of course, they can't let on. So they're like, oh yeah, love you too. See you later, buddy. Like, bye. And so they get back to their house. And they're still filming, and she's letting us know that this date was November 10th, 2021. And she's like, I have to call the cops, Tolga. I have to turn these in. Like, we can't hold on to this. We have to do this. This is the proof they said they needed. So we need to fucking hand it over. And he was like, yes, we do. We need to play it smart. Because like, really, they're put in such a tough position now that this has actually happened for real. And they have actual confirmation coming straight out of his fucking mouth. So basically, they're just like, okay, she goes to call the cops and they're like, we're just going to play it cool and we're just going to just act like everything's normal. And this is the end of episode 1. And I will let you guys know, when I watched this, I immediately went to the next episode and we get into more the nitty gritty of it, which we will definitely get into next week. So if you are watching this, please take care of your mental health with it because there's a lot. There is a lot that we learn. And my heart breaks for these girls so fucking much. But that is kind of my final thoughts. Do you have any final thoughts for this episode?
I think it's just really like a really tough situation to be in at this point because they have this information that they desperately want to like get out, but they know as soon as they do, as soon as the cops like act and do anything, that's the end of the connection. They won't be trusted. There are so many girls and women connected to Sam at this point that it's just heartbreaking that like they could be lost. So I say reluctantly excited because it's like, it's so sad. It breaks my heart to like kind of figure out the rest of the story.
Yeah, but Christine and Tolga are definitely amazing people for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's like risky because, I mean, we don't know these people. We don't know if they're violent. We don't know what they're capable of. And, putting yourself in that situation, you could really get hurt.
Absolutely. But we are going to go ahead and wrap things up for today. If you have watched this or you are watching along with us, let us know your thoughts on social media. And we will see you back here on Sunday for a Sunday Scaries. Bye, guys.
Toodles.